Where did all of my money go? That is my question every single month at the end of the month. Why am I so broke? I make all this money, where's it going? Where's it going? Welcome back to my channel. It is Sophia Eats Pizza. Not eating pizza, just learning how to adult one post at a time. This week, we are tackling how to create a budget. Every month, I feel like my money just gone, disappears, don't know how, where does it go? I have no idea. And I don't have a salary-based job. I work as a cocktail waitress at Tongue and Groove. It's a nightclub in Atlanta. And I also do freelance stuff, I act, I model. So it's hard to track it and it's hard to keep track of it. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm learning 1 week at a time. But it is something really important when it comes to adulting because I feel like in school I never learned how to budget, and I am learning all of that now. As I'm turning 25, I realize I have to start being more aware of where my money goes. I have to start creating an emergency fund, saving for retiring. All of these things need to begin now. I'm going to talk you through how I created my budget and how we can start building that emergency fund and planning for the future. Follow all of these steps and hopefully we will stop getting overdraft fees in 2020. Step 1, review your bank statements. This is a two-part bit. So you wanna look at your income and your expenses. If you're like me and don't have a steady salary job, your income is gonna vary month to month. If you make a lot of cash tips, you might not be keeping track of them. So I knew that I had to start making that list. Every week when I make my cash, I have to put in how much cash did I make this week, and that's how I'll start keeping track of it. We are going to keep track of our income and we're going to budget based on the lowest average. So if you generally make $5,000, but this month you made $4,000, you wanna plan for the months where you make $4,000, not the months where you're making $5,000 or $7,000. So it's good to be aware. After you look at your income, comes the hard part, looking at your expenses. I printed out the past 3 months of my bank statements and I went by line, and realized I am spending so much money on Ubers and restaurants and going out with friends. I'm like, oh, that's where my money went. When you actually look at your expenses, you are able to figure out where in the world your money is going. So I went through all of my spending and I broke it down into 10 categories. I have 1, credit cards and debts. So these are all of my debts that I'm paying off. Pretty obvious, if you have student loans, it would fall into this category as well. 2, I had health. So my yoga membership, my personal trainer, my medicine, like my birth control, all of those things, that would be health. General bills. So these are general bills. You have your utilities, your rent, your Wi-Fi, your cell phone bill. I do want to stress that Netflix is not a general bill. Netflix is an entertainment that we will get to later. Transportation, so gas, my car payment and insurance. Ubers and Lyft are not transportation because they are entertainment. Next, I had travel. So these are my travel expenses whenever I'm traveling or the money that I'm saving to travel. My next category was food, but it's more groceries and like quick bites and coffee. It's not like going out sit down dinners because that is, wait for it, entertainment. I also had miscellaneous. So this was a category for things that I couldn't quite decide what it was, like my Amazon Prime membership or clothing or little things that pop up here and there. Then I had my work expenses, so like maintaining my blog or buying clothes for my job. Next, I had savings and investment. This was my smallest category. I'm not really saving a lot and I'm not investing anything, but we're gonna get to that later. And last but not least, you know what I am about to say, entertainment. This is my favorite category. This is where all of my money is going. I don't buy myself clothes, I buy myself bottles of wine and food and going to the movies and Netflix and all of these memberships, all of these things. This is entertainment. This is where my money is going. And we are going to cut that down in 2020. Step 2 is separating your costs between fixed and variable. First, you have your fixed costs, and these are the most important costs because they're the ones that are going to be the same every single month. Every month, you know that you're going to pay $60 for Wi-Fi. You know that you're going to pay $175 for your phone bill. These are all of your fixed costs, and they're the most important because you know that you have to cover them regardless. There is no wiggle room for these costs. Every month, you should prioritize making sure all of your fixed costs are taken care of before you start fiddling around with your variable costs. So once you have divided those costs and you know how much that you need to be spending on your fixed costs, you can start going towards your variable costs. So your variable costs, as the name implies, are the costs that change every single month. So your groceries aren't going to be the same every single week. Maybe some nights you have dinners that you're going to eat out more, or others you know that you're going to be in savings mode and eating lentils and rice at home like I do when I get really broke. All of those are the ones that have a little bit of a sliding scale. We know that we can adjust them to work with our budget. Step 3, this is the hardest step, I think, because it requires that you define and categorize your expenses. So this means we're actually going to find out how much we should be spending. It's really, really tough to be honest with yourself and realize that, hey, maybe I need to cut back, or maybe I need to save more. When I started researching different budgeting techniques, I gravitated towards the 80-20 rule, mostly because I don't feel emotionally ready to hit the 70-30 rule. So the 80-20 rule is basically about percentages. 80% of your income should be spent on your expenses, on your lifestyle, on your life expenditures. And the other 20% is all savings and investment. This is scary for me because currently 150% of my income is on my expenses, which is really tragic because I have a great job where I feel like I make enough money to save, but I'm not saving. And that is why I am implementing the 80-20% rule. I like the idea of a percentage because my income fluctuates. So I know that every month is going to be a different type of month. There are some months where I'm going to make more money than other months. So if I have a percentage amount, I know what my target is versus having a specific number. That's why you're going to be constantly looking at your budget so you can make those adjustments. As I said, the 80% is your expenses. This is your bills, your rent, your groceries, you're going out. To me, it doesn't really matter if you have a formula for your 80%, it's just what you have to stay under. You cannot spend more than 80% of your budget. The next bit, the tricky bit, is the 20%. I don't save my money, I spend my money. And it's really fun to spend your money, but basically, if you don't start saving your money, you're never gonna be able to retire and you're gonna have to marry someone rich and you're gonna feel like a disappointment and you're not gonna accomplish anything. So I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I want us to be self-sufficient, independent, badass ladies. I want us to thrive. This 20% is broken up into two categories, saving and investing. 10% of that 20 is going towards investments. I don't know how to invest, but I know that if you want to retire, you need to invest. So at some point this month, I'm going to learn how to invest. That is one of my goals. That is one of our topics. But for the purpose of this video and our budget, all we have to know is that 10% of our income is saved for investments. The other 10% is savings. And within that, we break our savings into two categories. We have our 5% saving category that is going to be building our emergency fund. I think the problem with being young is that we don't realize bad things happen. We don't really plan for the future, but you could get fired. You could get into a very serious accident. Coronavirus could wipe out the economy and then you don't have any money for food and you're broke. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but it's good to be prepared. The goal is to have 3 to 6 months worth of life expenditures. It's gonna take me a while to build that up, but slowly but surely we will. How? By putting aside 5% of our income and building that fund. And that emergency fund would be best put in a high yields savings account. So these accounts are basically just savings accounts that you can open with your bank, and it means that your money makes money. If you don't touch it, it grows interest. That's the goal. Once you have your emergency fund set up though, do not touch it. Leave it alone. Buying yourself a plane ticket is not an emergency. This is not what this fund is for. This fund is for life or death. Don't know what's gonna happen. Broke as a joke. Help, SOS, emergencies. Our next 5% is our wiggle room savings. This is like our little goals. So I would like to, within the next 2 years, buy property. I'm going to start putting 5% of my income towards saving for my house. I want to have a net worth more than just bags and shoes. I want property, I want assets. But to get all that, you need to save your money. You don't necessarily have to be saving towards property. It could be towards a car, it could be towards a music festival, it could be towards a vacation. It doesn't matter. The goal though is to be putting something away. You don't have to necessarily put it in a separate savings account. You never know when you're gonna have to bust out of the country with 10K in your passport, but you have it in your underwear drawer because you saved. So yes, the 80-20 rule, hard if you're completely new to it. Eventually, I would like to work towards the 70-30 rule, but for now, I think this is a good place to start, especially if you are not saving any money at all. Step 4 is tracking your expenses. There's a lot of great apps that I have been suggested, like Mint and Every Dollar, but I am old school. I like an Excel spreadsheet with everything in nice columns, divvied up so I can see it on my laptop and force myself to keep track of all my expenses. It is a bit tedious to manually input everything, but I think it also makes you aware of how much you're spending. So if you have it all broken down, you have all of your bills, and then you have all of your little fun categories like clothes or going out, eating out, etc. Every time you spend, you should plug it in so you can see how much you have left in your budget. A visual representation is the perfect way to make the change and take control of your spending. I am attaching a copy of my spreadsheet down here for you guys. It might not work for you. You might prefer to write everything pen and paper, but the important thing is to actually track it. You're not gonna know how much you're spending until you physically record it, and that will make the world of difference. Your next and final step is to adjust monthly. Your budget is not going to look the same every month. There is no magic formula. You have to be aware that life happens. So if you know that next month you have to get an oil change, this is the perfect way to add that in towards your budget and plan for it. When you start planning for things in life, you stop getting surprised by overdraft fees. Crazy how that works, huh? That being said, you have to be realistic with yourself. If you know that currently you're spending $500 a month eating out, it's not realistic to say, okay, I'm gonna spend $100 a month eating out. You have to slide that budget and set realistic goals and expectations for yourself. We want to be better about managing our money. We want to stop spending our money on things that we don't need. We want to be fiscally responsible millennials. We want that. I want that. Our budgets are not going to be the same because you and I have different incomes, different goals, different priorities. But by taking the time to actually build a budget, you are already ahead of the game. We're just trying to be successful adults here. So obviously, it doesn't matter if you create a budget if you don't stick to it. No one is going to slap your credit card out of your hand. No one is going to tell you, baby girl, you don't need those shoes. You have to be the one to tell yourself. And I'm not saying that you can't go out and enjoy life. You just have to be aware of how much you can go out and enjoy life. That way you don't get stuck eating ramen noodles for a week because you spent too much money the first 3 weeks. It's all about finding a balance, finding a budget, finding something that works for you. And once you start doing that, then you can call yourself an INDPENDENT woman. Until then, you ain't independent. You struggling like me. I want us to learn, I want us to grow, and I want myself to have my finances in order. So making this video helped me get myself together because it was a full realization of where is my money going, how am I spending it, and how am I gonna start saving it. I hope that you learned something. I did. Please comment below any of your budgeting tips. I do have a lot more finance topics coming, so if you have any suggestions, drop them my way. Next week, we are talking about how to file your taxes. Terrifying. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. We'll probably need wine, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna get through it. Thank you for watching. Head over to the blog. I feel like this is a topic that is best read, not watched, but I have both mediums for you. So whatever you prefer, I got you. You can visit my website at www.sophiaeatspizza.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at sophiaeatspizza. And when you see me out too much, you can DM me and tell me, girl, I thought we were being responsible. Thank you guys. See you next week.